Hinterland was written on February the 6th, 2023. The day I wrote it was particularly memorable because I had chosen to take a Sabbath, a day to rest, recover, and rejuvenate from my normal working life. On this specific occasion, instead of spending the morning by the ocean, I decided to drive up through the Sunshine Coast hinterland. Pretty soon I found myself soaking in a panoramic view of the Glasshouse Mountains and strumming away on my $50 nylon string guitar. In such a peaceful headspace, it didn't take long for these lyrics and chords to come out, and I'm glad to say the song has remained unchanged since then. The message is all about finding peace and stillness in an often chaotic life. The calm and the quiet are always accessible to us if we can just see it. I hope that even now, as you listen to this, you would find a moment of stillness just to breathe. The decision to record, produce, mix, and master Hinterland myself made me a little nervous, but I knew it would be the most rewarding experience to share this song honestly with my listeners. I enjoyed the challenge of recording that same nylon string guitar, as well as my brother-in-law's vintage Hofner hollow body. These two guitars form the foundation of the song. There's also some flugelhorn takes of Evan Osborne I repurposed from an old TNL song, and an audio clipping of cars racing past my van from the day I wrote the song. It's exciting for me to experiment with a new sonic palette, and I'm learning more and more that if it sounds good, it is good. This is the first track from my fourth EP titled Nothing Makes Sense. The earliest recording I have of Medication was captured on December the 29th, 2022. For quite some time, I'd been sitting on the idea of writing a song about my health condition, but I definitely wasn't prepared for how honest the end product would be. In 2017, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, an autoimmune disease that tells the body to attack the gut lining when no infection is present. As a previously healthy 19-year-old, it was rattling to see my body deteriorate so quickly with intense nausea, diarrhea, bleeding, and weight loss. Doctors found it difficult to get my disease under control, but after 2 weeks in hospital, many prayers, and swallowing more pills than I could count, I was on the mend. The years that followed were riddled with ups and downs, and though my condition settled, I mentally struggled to understand why this was happening to me. As a kid, I remember naively assuming that bad things must only happen to bad people. But as I grew older, experienced hardship myself, and witnessed those closest to me suffer, I realized this to be far from the case. It made me angry to see good people in pain, but my upbringing in church led me to bring this anger to God. And though I didn't get answers straight away, I felt His presence comforting me and grieving with me. You see, in any good relationship, growth comes from dealing with conflict together. And when we're willing to share our hurt and anger with a God way bigger than we can imagine, He gives us peace. I realized through this experience that God doesn't cause these bad things to happen, but He does want us to desperately cling to Him when all seems lost, because He is enough and He'll get you through. So one afternoon on a road trip down south, I found myself tinkering away at this guitar riff. What quickly formed was a heartfelt and scarily honest retelling of how I was diagnosed with UC and how I have come to live with it. Producing this track was a massive challenge, as I drafted at least 5 other versions of the song before landing on the piano and kick drum combination. I enlisted the help of an old friend Eli to help produce the second verse and chorus, and I'm grateful for his contributions that lifted the energy and got the song across the line. Eli makes electronic music as T-Coys, a name you might remember from an earlier track of mine, 103. In the outro, you'll also hear vocals from Brittany May and Dennis of Love Love Love. I wanted to replicate the TNL choir sound from my last record, and they were keen to help me do this. One final note, in the break between the last chorus and the bridge, you may hear a strange rattling sound. This is an audio clipping from my good friend Dan, who also suffers from UC. I asked him to record himself doing his daily medication routine so I might be able to honour him by sewing his journey into the fabric of this song. Medication is the second track from my fourth EP titled Nothing Makes Sense. Summer Song was written on October the 19th, 2022. At the time I was seeing someone, and though we'd only spent a short amount of time together, it all felt very comfortable and easy. I remember we often talked about big dreams and travelling the world, so when she said she was buying a van and moving to the other side of Australia, it wasn't necessarily a surprise, but it did happen sooner than I expected. The day she left, I wrote this song for her as an ode to summer. That beautiful season of life when the sun's always out, the ocean sparkles, and every care of the world fades away. But just like everything else, seasons change, and people come and go in our lives. There's very little we can do to stop it, but we can find peace in the rhythm of it all. So wherever you are right now, know there's a new season waiting for you just around the corner. The lyrics and structure of Summer Song have remained unchanged since the day I wrote it, and once again I'm stoked to say I recorded, produced, mixed and mastered everything on this track. It was extra special to feature my friend Brittany May on this one, as she brings so much life and sweetness to the performance. We met down on the south coast of Australia on my most recent tour, and I knew straight away that I needed her incredible voice on the track. The sonic foundation of this recording is my $50 nylon string guitar, and I love the amount of background noise you can hear in the takes. I also added some audio clippings of Britt and I talking about the song in the interlude. It's these everyday imperfect sounds that add to the overall charm. Summer Song is the third track from my fourth EP titled Nothing Makes Sense. The original idea for Trust Myself came to me on April 6, 2023. Dennis and I had set aside a whole day for recording acoustic guitar on turning keys, but before even capturing our first take, we were interrupted by a knock on the door. It was a delivery man, and as Dennis went to sign for the package, I started fiddling around with these chords and mumbling some lyrics. Was at the front door where he left it on my porch, just a box full of the books and records I used to love. Though I didn't know where these words would lead, it was a strong hook, and I voice memoed the idea before I forgot it. 2 days passed and I found myself in Byron Bay, surfing, chilling out and learning the lay of the land, busking with some new mates of mine. Each night we'd pull crowds, playing songs and sharing stories. My setlist changed most nights, but I really felt I needed some more upbeat originals to keep the audience engaged. Trust Myself was the answer to this, and as more lyrics and thoughts came together over the next few days, I started to find myself in the narrative. You see, a few years earlier, I had screwed up a relationship. Things had moved fast, emotions were high, and a busy season of life added to the blur of it all. And when the honeymoon period had ended, I was surprised that trusting my gut had led me somewhere I didn't think it would. I learnt that relationships need to be thoughtfully paced and regularly reflected on to honour both parties involved. The foundation of this recording was Max Harford's drum part that we captured in July last year. I wanted to go for a live band sound as much as possible, and Max's energetic feel on the drums was critical for this. Layered on top was vocals, acoustic and electric guitar, banjo, piano and bass. Very little was added beyond this, as I made a concerted effort to keep additional sounds to a minimum. I spent most of my time tracking the acoustic, swapping out guitars, trying different tunings, and testing various mics. In the end, it was an Epiphone J200 through a Neumann U87 copy that sounded the best. I'm not gonna lie, Trust Myself feels like the closest thing to a pop song that I've ever put out, probably because of the subject matter and the corny delivery. But I've grown to love the song, and I'm starting to realise that genre doesn't matter as much as we think. Trust Myself is the fourth track from my fourth EP titled Nothing Makes Sense. Give It Some Time was written on the 1st of February 2024. At the time, I was feeling particularly inspired for a number of reasons. Firstly, I had just started seeing someone and things were going pretty well. Secondly, I was days away from heading off on another big road trip. And thirdly, I'd just purchased my very own 5-string banjo for the studio. One morning, I was strumming away on this same banjo and came upon the chords and melody for a new song. It felt upbeat and optimistic, and the vocal lift in the chorus was super exciting, so I made sure to get it down as soon as I could. I then got stuck into some other work and really didn't come back to the idea till early March. When I listened back to the recording, I was shocked by how catchy the melody was and how complete the idea already felt. When asked, I've described this song to a few people as a journal entry, encouraging myself to take things slow with this new relationship. In the past, I've gotten ahead of myself and moved things forward fairly quickly, but this song was a reminder to myself not to make the same mistakes over. Once again, I recorded, mixed and mastered everything on this track myself, and I'm really starting to feel proud of my producing skills. The very first demo for this song came together quickly, and I loved the energy in some of the takes. Hence, there are many parts of the final version that were never re-recorded, namely the banjo, nylon string guitar, and bass parts. Creatively, this song is an experiment in not second-guessing or refining material. Whether in lyric writing or recording, I've tried hard to keep everything as true and honest as I could to that early voice memo. Give It Some Time is the final track from my 4th EP titled Nothing Makes Sense.